state has improved a lot in the last 25 years. That was a time when they gave us the check. They gave us the check to the legislators, said take that back to your community. And I can remember this too. One of them was for $235,000. I said, oh my goodness, what will happen if I have an accident or something? I said, you come down here on Friday afternoon, we're going to give you the check. I said, I'd rather you get it from there. So I put it in an envelope, put it in my boot, and go back to Fort Wayne, because I thought nobody ever find it in my boot. I don't remember who I gave it to. Unless it was, maybe it was Jeff Paddock, or I don't know who I gave the check to, but I immediately got rid of that $235,000.
Just had a couple of comments triggered by Phyllis and Mitch. Phyllis mentioned the state couldn't do this project today like they did back in the 80s and 90s. I would just comment the private sector is different too today. And I don't think I hate to say no, but the chances of our being able to raise as much money today as we were able to raise back then is pretty slim. The donor community has changed, the emphasis has changed in what we're doing. The corporate world is so much different from when it was then. They supported it heavily. There just aren't that many headquarters in Fort Wayne anymore. So this would be tough to do on the private sector side. And then Mitch mentioned the armory. We had quite a go around about the armory, and I think it sat right about here. Initially, we were planning to make it part of the park as storage or whatever. We were trying to get the federal government to give us that armory. And I've forgotten the details, but it turned out that it didn't work. And I look at what we've got here today, and I say, I'm sure I'm glad it didn't work. It's a lot better than it was. One other thing I think I'd say, and I'll keep quiet, is one of the key things we did in 1993 was bring Jeff Paddock on the scene as the director of the Park Alliance. And that wasn't easy either. I just mentioned this because Jeff had just run a tough campaign against John Sinks for the state legislature. And we didn't know whether we could get Jeff confirmed by the Republicans or not. But again, cooperation works. Everybody agreed to it, and we got him hired, and 17 years later, he's still here.
Thank you all. By the way, Jeff Paddock is respected not just by us and by Ian, but by the whole community. He's going to be honored in 2 weeks by another group, the Historical Society. You probably haven't heard this yet, but guess who's being honored with? Rod Woodson. And I still haven't figured that one out. I still don't know what position you played, Jeff.
Both Snyder graduates.
That's
all we have in common.
Well, I want to have just as an epilogue, a couple of comments about the way our commission efforts follow the leadership of these gentlemen, because one of the smart things we did was rehire in 2 cases, and a third we kind of begged and cajoled a person to come back to the fold, and that was Ian, because after his early leadership, we asked him if he would lead the fundraising drive. And he did tell you correctly what a large and difficult task that was. It was, of course, very much in the tradition of private sector support for parks, but that private sector support in the past had always been much simpler. Typically, one individual gave one park, helped develop it, and there was a very close working relationship between the trust and the park board and whoever that donor was and so on. This was a much, much larger effort. We had to go out very widely and reach the major 3 donors plus hundreds of others. An enormous effort and undertaking, and fortunately had its leadership for it. The other thing we did, one of the other things we did, is we rehired Eric Kuhn, who had worked so brilliantly with wind. And of course, he had this enormous expansive plan, which covered, I think it was 60 acres or something. But if you know Eric, there are no small plans with Eric. He's now redesigning Dubai and parts of Moscow. I kid you not. And we all loved him. But Eric was known as an unrealistic visionary. And it became a rather delicate point in the commissions to whether to rehire him, because some of us emphasized the fact that he was a visionary, and others emphasized the fact that he was unrealistic. And there was a rather delicate negotiation led by Charles Redd, and I admired his diplomatic skills at the time, and still do. And he really showed them and helped the community with them at that time. So we did manage to rehire Eric, but we had to do it under certain terms. We supported hiring him, agreed that we would hold him down, which isn't necessarily so easy. But his first contract was for, I think, $107,000, and he was allowed to do a preliminary plan for this park. But of course, he couldn't stop himself, and the pencil started to go across the river and worked its way up into Lawton Park, and he came back just at one point and said, "John, we still have a little money left, and we go ahead and design that to Lawton Park." And I said, "No." And we literally made him get his eraser out and erase what he had done. He was doing the kind of thinking that this community very much needs, and I almost regret having pulled the plug a little bit on him, but that worked out well. The other person we hired was Dan Sykes, who then went down and became leadership of the whole commission in our efforts to raise money, as we did successfully, from Phyllis and Benjamin Quinton and others. And by the way, when I listed the commissioners, I did make a mistake. I was so focused on my reminiscence of Ben that I forgot Mark J. Quinton, who's here with his father. I'll have to apologize to him later because of that one left. And Angie O'Neill, I think you were on that original Alliance group, were you not? I thought so. That interim group that kind of passed the torch to us, let us get going. And I remember some of these events too that Dan and others have been describing. Dan emailed me today and reminded me, he said, "You know, we failed at getting state park funds for this, so be careful before you say nice things about me." But we remember it very well because Eric had done this beautiful drawing of the Headwaters State Park in Fort Wayne. And the drawing was so good, we wanted to keep using it, so we got a white piece of white tape, taped over the word state, and then we took around a sign that said Headwaters Park. But since then, of course, now looking forward, we've been looking backwards, we're very fortunate to have the new alliance, which came into existence. I was very happy myself to be able to turn over all of the work we all have been doing to this wonderful support group. And we're very fortunate now to have as president Dave Steiner, and Dave, are you still here? Good. And I was being asked by Mark Evans earlier, what can people do to get involved with causes like this one? Well, there are organizations you can join and become active and do work if you want to put to work. So if you would like to be a supporter of the Headwaters Alliance, I would invite you to talk to Dave or call Jeff Paddock. We'll be very happy to sign you up. I think you have already signed up. Same goes for the Friends of the Parks. And with that, I think we've come to the end of our very entertaining and educational evening. Thank you all, gentlemen, for this participation, and thank you all for coming.